Actually, we're good to go.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this masterclass on genderized and minoritized, communicating migrant and diasporic identities organized by the PACMRI, the Philippine Association of Communication and Media Research Incorporated, to which I represent Mindanao as the research coordinator. I'm your moderator. I'm Dr. Shiella C. Balbutin, the officer in charge of the DevCom department of Xavier University-Ateneo de Cagayan in Cagayan de Oro City. Now, before we start, we have a few reminders that we will flash on the screen. If Miss Dane can kindly do that. Few reminders. We have the netiquettes, things to remember while we go through this webinar today. That and that. Okay. Again, hello and good afternoon and welcome. To officially start this webinar, we'd like to hear the opening remarks of the President of PACMRI, Dr. Chen San Pascual, from the Department of Communication Research, UP Diliman.
Name, I think the audio is not coming in through.
Yep, sorry about that. Can we check again?
Welcome to the fifth session this year's PACMRI Masterclass series. We are currently live in Zoom and live streaming through our official Facebook page. As practiced in the previous Masterclass sessions, let me first introduce PACMRI, especially to our first-timers here. PACMRI, or the Philippine Association for Communication and Media Research Incorporated, is a University of the Philippines-based non-stock organization that aims to advance knowledge in communication and media phenomena involving the Filipinos and the Philippines. Founded in 2019 by the University of the Philippines Department of Communication Research, PACMRI envisions a knowledge-based society that values, uses, and innovates communication and media research. PACMRI endeavors to promote the systematic study of developments, changes, and challenges in Philippine communication and media to contribute to enhancing the competencies of local communication and media researchers in conducting and disseminating scholarly works, and to facilitate the engagement of communication and media research practitioners and institutions in Philippine society. The PACMRI Masterclass series, one of our flagship projects, aims to expound on the various philosophical, contextual, and practical concerns that inform and elevate the studies that we conduct. We at PACMRI hope that the series results in a vibrant and rigorous communication and media research culture in our country. As Filipinos, our personal narratives have all been touched in one way or another by experiences of diaspora. This afternoon, we will learn more about migration and the significance of theoretical, critical, but nonetheless sensitive inquiry and reporting about diaspora. We are privileged to learn from our esteemed resource persons who have immersed into examining this phenomenon. So please invite your colleagues and friends to join us. They can still catch up to our Zoom or Facebook live streaming. May I also invite you to view all our previous masterclass sessions, which are accessible for free in PACMRI's digital platforms. Again, all our previous masterclass sessions are accessible for free without charge in our digital platforms. You are also welcome to share our content within your own network. As this afternoon session is PACMRI's first masterclass collaboration with the Angeles University Foundation and Xavier University-Ateneo de Cagayan, may I take this opportunity to thank these institutions for generously partnering with PACMRI. Maraming salamat, AUF and Xavier University-Ateneo. Before I end, I would also like to take this opportunity to invite you to the National Communication Research Conference 2024, which will be held on November 22 and 23 at the De La Salle University in Manila. This year's National Communication Research Conference is presented by the UP Department of Communication Research in collaboration with the De La Salle University and, of course, PACMRI. PACMRI will host a special parallel session on November 23, Saturday, 9 a.m. during NCRC. And this will be top-billed by Dr. J.C. Punungbayan and Ms. Maiti Bagula. They will talk about sustaining evidence-based discourses going beyond the academia. We hope to see you there. Mabuhay ang pananaliksik at mga mananaliksik ng komunikasyon at media. Let us all have an engaging happy. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon sa ating lahat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chen. And I will see you at the NCRC in 2 weeks. Okay, let us now hear the greetings from one of our partner universities. Aside from us, that's Xavier. Ms. Cristina Bonos Reyes, the Department Chair of the Department of Communication, College of Arts and Sciences, Angeles University Foundation. Ms. Cristina.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. And on behalf of Angeles University Foundation, wait lang, nandun-double natin. On behalf of Angeles University Foundation, the College of Arts and Sciences, and the Department of Communication, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to, of course, to PACMRI for allowing us to host this masterclass. And of course, I would like to thank everyone, especially the participants of today's masterclass, for being with us. I hope you will learn a lot from this session. And then, of course, to the staff and officers of PACMRI, sana po. And we are really hoping to have more collaborations with you. So again po, thank you very much and welcome po to our session this afternoon. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cristina. We're very happy to have also co-partnered this webinar this afternoon. And we hope that we will have more opportunities to do good things together in the future. Okay, before I introduce to you our first speaker, I'll give you a short introduction. Okay, again, I'm honored to be the moderator and I'm thrilled to open the conversation that is so critical in today's media landscape, especially that one of the speakers is someone I've met last year. Hi, Sandra. Okay, migration stories are among the most powerful we encounter. They're filled with resilience, loss, and transformation. But as we know, these stories are often underrepresented or framed in ways that don't capture the full human experience, particularly when it comes to gender and minority identities. Migrants and diasporic individuals, especially those from minority communities, experience unique struggles and triumphs, which are often overlooked or misunderstood by mainstream narratives. Our goal today is to explore how we, as communicators, can better capture these layered identities and tell the stories with the nuance and empathy they deserve. I encourage each of you, especially our students, to think critically about how we can reshape narratives around migration and diaspora, to ask questions, and to engage with today's discussion. Together, we can strive to bring more equity and authenticity to these stories, ensuring that they are told by those who live them, not just for audiences, but as a way to honor lived experiences. So thank you, and let's get started. Our first speaker, Ms. Ana P. Santos, is an award-winning investigative journalist who reports on the intersections of gender, sexuality, and labor migrant rights. Her work has been published in Rappler, The Atlantic, The Los Angeles Times, Al Jazeera, and DW Germany. Ana also writes a gender and sexuality column for Rappler, Asia's Nobel Prize newsroom, called Dash of Sass, short for Sex and Sensibilities. The column is now a video series about embracing positive sexuality and sexual rights. As the first Filipino to be named as the Pulitzer Center's 2014 Male Fellow, and with multiple grants from the Pulitzer Center, Ana has written about feminized migration, where restrictive labor policies in the Middle East turn sprawling villas into prisons with chandeliers for foreign domestic workers, the divorce ban that traps thousands of Filipinos in abusive marriages, and skyrocketing teen pregnancy rates. Ana has won numerous awards for her expose on how Zina laws in the Middle East criminalize unmarried sex and cause migrant women to be imprisoned along with their babies. Ana has a postgraduate degree in gender and sexuality from the London School of Economics and political science as a Chevening scholar. She is currently based in Berlin, Germany, and Manila, Philippines, dividing her time between the two countries she calls home. Ladies and gentlemen, with great pleasure, let's welcome Ms. Ana P. Santos.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. I am so honored to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for that introduction. I have a question to ask first on the technical aspect. Noel, were you able to receive my slides on email, or shall I share my screen and pull them up?
Ana, is it okay if you could be the one to pull it and present it?
No problem.
Thank you.
I have to check now. Can you see my screen? And I hope not all of my emails that have still been unanswered. Oh la la, can you see it? 9, not yet.
Not
Can I
yet.
ask check in, since it's very early
Sure.
morning?
Yes,
No,
it's 9 a.m.
not very early, but
Very,
early.
very early.
So can I ask for a check-in? How is everyone feeling? Just type in the chat. How are you feeling today? Like, are you, oh, see what I mean? You see my Viber screen, right? Which you shouldn't see.
We're able to
Okay.
retrieve. Oh, okay.
Now do you see it? Diasporic
Yes.
identity.
Yes.
But wait, some people might have sent in a might have sent in a check-in. I don't want that to be ignored. I don't see the chat box. Noel, Miss Sheila, are there any chats telling us how they've, oh, there I see. Amazing.
Amazing, yes. Hi, ma'am.
Okay, I hope that by the end of this presentation, we're going to be talking about some sad things. I like to keep it real. Okay, but I hope by the end of this presentation, you will all feel amazing. And Paolo, even if you're exhausted, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And yes, TGIF, wonderful day so far. Thank you, everyone, for sharing how you're doing today. You know, I wanted to just start off by saying that whenever someone reads my bio, it's always different when someone reads your bio, right? Versus you read it on the screen or something, and then you listen to it while somebody is reading it out loud. It always feels like it's another person. And I guess if I were looking at my bio or hearing my bio, maybe 10, even 10 years from now, I wouldn't have thought that that would have been me. And it's easy to think that there's so much glitter in that bio. Of course, I'm going to tell you the best things about myself. But today, I would like us to talk about reflections. I will share my own. And a lot of my reflections are what writers like me like to do. We like to edit. We like to go back to stories and see what we could have done better. We agonize about what could have been written better. And I'll also be talking a little bit about my failures, because I think that that's where we can all come and learn something. So yeah, okay, shall we go? Are we ready? Drop me an emoticon. It's always so hard to talk to a class when I just see squares. I love doing workshops, but please bear with me. I like interacting as much as possible. So, oops. The first thing I'm gonna do is, I hope, move my slide. I can't move it to the next one. Why? But the first thing we're going to do is, oh, there you go, word association. Okay, we've already done a check-in. Now I'm going to show you a word. Can you please type in the chat the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear this word? Do not think, just type immediately. Boom, labor migrant, go. Oh, talagang may go. OFW, Noel, all right. Anybody else? Spy. Is that because of what's been happening in China? All right. Cheap labor. Thank you. A few more before we go to the next word. And remember the words, the associations you've just said. OFW, overseas Filipino migrant worker. Cheap labor. Leaving the country, and spy. Okay, thank you. Next, do not think. Expat. Boom. Privileged. White supremacy. Uy, ang dami. Alien residents. Wonderful. Not wonderful that alien, but I love the new words that are coming to your mind. A few more. Expat before we go to the next word. More opportunity, suit and tie. All right. IDP, internally displaced person. What comes to mind? Buckwheat. Oh, yes. I was wondering if I was going to say that word, buckwheat. So for people who are not Filipino speakers, buckwheat is a Filipinized, and I think I've only heard it in when I do coverage in Mindanao, way of saying evacuate, refugees, social anxiety, environmental displacement. Ganda. Okay, next. Boom, asylum seeker. Social protection, conflict escape, exile, safety from war. I love it. I need someone to help me take track of some of the words, but also everybody in the room, just keep what you're written or what the images are in your head, okay? This will guide us through this whole workshop, or my portion of it at least. Refugee. Boom. Escapee, safety, displaced. Okay, safety, and okay, safety comes out a lot. Fantastic. Immigrant, displaced, human rights. Uy, love it. Okay, thank you everyone. Now, from words, we're going to go to pictures. These are the tools of my trade, right? Words and then photos. And I think as researchers, we share those same tools, words and pictures. You will inevitably be writing your research on paper using lots of words, and maybe you're going to document your research in one way or another through photos. So let's go through pictures. Ready? Ready? I could be talking to myself now. All right. But thank you, Noelle, for like showing me reaction. Okay. So same thing. I'm going to show you a photo. Do not think. Just type. I'm going to show you a photo. I'm going to ask you what comes to mind. I'm going to type in the chat. Please pay attention now. Which of these identities do you associate with a photo? Do you see what I have in the chat? Did it come out? All right. So when I show you a picture, you type, what does it look like to you? Does that look like a labor migrant? Does that look like a refugee? Does that look like an expat? Okay, you ready? There are no right or wrong answers. Okay, nobody's checking. Nobody's going to be graded. Nobody will be judged. We don't have that kind of space here. All right, cool. Ready? Boom. Labor migrant, refugee, expat, displaced, internally displaced person, or asylum seeker. Labor migrant, labor migrant, labor migrant, labor migrant. Okay, clear. Think about this picture. Take a few seconds to think about the details. Okay, just some details that strike you. I'm not going to tell you what those details are. I want this to be an experience for you. Next, boom. Okay, again, is that a labor migrant, refugee, expat, internally displaced person, or asylum seeker? Do you need me to type the words again or no more now?
I think we're good, Anna. We were
Oh,
able to get.
okay. Oops. Oh, nope. Oh no. Oh no, now my slides are going. How do I move back? Ah, there. This one, right? So can I see? Refugee, refugee, refugee. Okay, fantastic. Next, this one. Boom. Labor migrant, refugee, expat, internally displaced person, asylum seeker. Asylum seeker. Expat. Ooh, refugee, asylum seeker. Asylum seeker. Asylum seeker. Okay. Think about, again, take note of the details, okay? What are the details that strike you? Anything, the mood of this photo, how it makes you feel, how it makes you feel about the people you see in the photo. Do not think, just I want this to be a lot, just embrace your emotions about it. It could be disgust, it could be anything. You know, I'm just saying that it doesn't have to be a good scene. You will go through your own feelings. Okay, this one, expat. Oh, sorry. This one, expat, labor migrant, refugee, asylum seeker. Expat, expat. Okay, expat. All right. And lastly, this one, expat, labor migrant, refugee, asylum seeker, internally displaced person. IDP, 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 IDP. Solid. All right. Have you noticed in your answers with the photo association, it's pretty much I mean, there are a lot of similar answers for the photos. Have you noticed? This one was IDP, the other one is expat, the other one's labor migrant. We seem to have, at least for the people who answered something, we have solid associations for what an expat will look like, or what a labor migrant will look like, and what they'll be doing. Okay. Now, let's think about that. Think about those pictures. Think about what you also associated with those terms. You said privileged, you said safety, you said exiled, lots of different things. I want to ask you now, how were migrants depicted in those photos? Just migrant now. Can you type in the chat? Or how do you feel? Another way would be, how do you feel about the migrants that you saw in the photos? And when you heard those words, sensationalized, seems like they're always on the losing end, helpless, they need help, hardworking, always disadvantaged, or worse, oppressed, victims. Okay. Vulnerable. Thank you, everyone. I hope that oh wait, before I say racialized, hopeless, my computer is slow. It's not as quick as all of you. I apologize. But thank you so much for your answers. Can we sit for a moment with our thoughts about what we saw in images and what images came to our mind when we heard certain words? Okay, think about that for a minute and let's sit with it, because the question I want us to ask ourselves is, how does that influence how I see migrants, how I represent migrants in the way I talk about them, in the way I write about them, in the way I choose who I will write about. Okay? You said a lot of words, and it seems like migrants are always a subject of pity, of oppression, of bad circumstances. And we are not denying that, because that's part of the reality. But as we know, no one is ever just one thing, right? No one is ever one-dimensional. And what I was missing, or not missing because there's a deficit, but I was just thinking about how different we saw and associated migrants with what Ms. Sheila had earlier said about diasporic identities. Yes, she said there's loss. I wrote it down, Yes, there's loss, but always resilience and transformation. How come we don't see that yet? In the photos that I showed you, in the words that come to your mind, when we hear expat, who gets to be an expat? Who gets to be a migrant? Now, how are we going to change all of that? Clearly, there's an imbalance in the way that diasporic identity are represented. Now, how do we change that? First of all, we have to know the terms, okay? So let us go through them very quickly. There are differences when it comes to refugees, migrants, okay, and asylum seekers. Just so we're clear about, this is the way that the law defines them. Okay, this is These are not labels that we associated before, but these are how laws define people. The refugees are people who flee their homes, and important is they cross an international border. They cannot return to their home countries because they fear for their lives or are in danger. Okay? So a refugee could be someone fleeing from Afghanistan, the women from Afghanistan, where now you cannot even speak. Okay, if you are a woman, you would be a refugee. Wait, sorry, you would first be an asylum seeker. Okay, these are people who flee their homes and claim they are refugees, but have not been definitively determined. When you flee, you are first an asylum seeker, and if your claim for international protection is granted, you are a refugee. You become a refugee. It's in the status that you are recognized as. And then that comes with certain protections, etc. So all refugees were once asylum seekers or started out as asylum seekers. Okay, but not all, not everyone will become a refugee because some asylum claims are unfortunately denied. Please type in if there's any question or thing I should clarify. Okay, we clear? Refugees and asylum seekers. I'm going to move on. This is mga bakwit. All right. Anybody who is from Mindanao? Yes. Miss Sheila. All right.
Yes. Mindanao represent.
Mindanao represent.
Yes.
Okay, drop me an emoticon if there's anyone else from Mindanao. Okay, mga bakwit. IDP, internally displaced person. Remember how we said a refugee crosses an international border? Important in the definition of an IDP is internal. Okay. They flee their homes for the same reasons as refugees. Maybe it's climate, maybe it's a war, but they do not cross an international border. They remain in their country, but they are displaced. So they are not, they're moved from their home. And then we have migrants. Migrants voluntarily leave their homes to settle permanently or not in another country for a variety of different reasons. So this is where you will have your OFW, you will have your labor migrant, seasonal worker, expat. Okay, all right. Clear? Any questions before we go into the next? Okay, I see an emoticon from Christina. Thank you. Next. So the question was, how do we change the imbalance? And how do we somehow bring in this nuance when we talk about migrants, when we represent them, and even how we view diasporic communities? I started out with asking you how you feel, because that's what we bring essentially to all of our interactions and all of the, as for me, it's an assignment, you know, when we talk about diasporic community. So the change starts from us, is what I'm trying to say. And I want us to focus on how trauma-informed, survivor-focused data collection can start correcting that imbalance when we talk about diasporic identities. Okay, some big words: trauma-informed, survivor-focused. I use the word data collection because we're researchers in this group. For me, that word I use for, if I were speaking to journalists, is storytelling. But we're all storytellers here. I just wanted to focus it on what I had imagined as your main tool or methodology. All right. First, we have to understand, how trauma affects the brain. Noel, I might need to ask for help here when I play this video. It might go to YouTube, I guess, right?
Yes.
All right. So, but I need you to back
Sure,
me up.
sure.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to show you a video, and I'm going to ask you to think about the trauma that may have been felt by the group that is focused here. This issue deals with kidnapping. Okay, it deals with kidnapping, so that will have mentions of violence. If you need to turn off your screen for a moment, I'm going to give you some time to do that. If you would like to opt out of this video, it's about, I think, 40 seconds or close to a minute long. Everyone okay? Shall I proceed? Okay. I don't see the other emoticons if anybody needs a moment pa. I hope we're okay now. Okay, but anytime, people you can leave, huh? If you need if you feel you need to. Is it playing?
Yes, we can see the screen, Anna.
Masaya, kasi kita pa namin yung pamilya namin. Tignan nyo, apat na taon at 8 buwan. Nabuhay kami, may mga kasama kaming 2 namatay na crew doon. Nabantayan nila kami. Tapos, tusan nila kami. Pinabantayan kami. Magawa na. Ako po yung tagaluto. Tagaluto po nila. Tapos tagaluto ng kasama. Yung kainin namin tanghalian, atiin namin doon para may panghapunan pa. Minsan nanguhuli kami ng taka para lang hindi kami magutom.
Okay. Now I have to figure out how it goes back to the slide. But
Was würdest du einpacken, wenn du zur Flucht?
can I ask, how did that make you feel? How did you see the gentlemen who were featured in that video? Just as a background, those gentlemen were 5 of our Filipino fishermen who were kidnapped while they were fishing off the Somali coast. They were kidnapped by Somali pirates and held in captivity for 5 years. It was the longest period of captivity in modern day piracy. So 2 things, 5 years, sorry, I might lapse into Filipino, forgive me. There's some things that, I don't know, I can't say it in English, you know? Hindi maarok ng salitang dayuhan, di ba? Yung nararamdaman ko pagdating sa mga nararanasan ng mga OFW natin. Forgive me. But what I'm saying is, think about that. They had not seen their family in 5 years. And we know this story, right, from OFW. But add the dimension of being held captive. So it's not just you didn't see your family, but this is your 5 years where your family has not heard from you. And as I later learned, the family did not know if the gentlemen were dead or alive still. I'm also going to tell you a little bit about the backstory of that. Okay. I was there. That's my story. I was there. We were called to a press conference at the airport. And I was sitting there with Mr. Balbero's children and his wife. And they were so antsy waiting for him, you know, like, oh, like this. I cannot explain. I can only show you in their actions and how they were just not being able to sit still. And when the men came out, you saw it in the video. They were met by their families who they had not seen in 5 years, but also by a throng of media people carrying mics, carrying cameras, carrying lights. And I remember I stood back a little bit. I said, oh my God, they're being dwarfed by these other media people, these other journalists. You're like fighting for space with your family. And Mr. Balbero here, he would later tell me that he was hugging his wife and he was looking for his daughter, and he was looking for the other daughter. He has two. Eloisa has one, she's the older one. And he was asking about her, where is she? Where is she? And they had to tell him, she's right there hugging you hugging you as well. He didn't recognize her. It had been 5 years. He left when she was maybe 2, a year and a half old, and it had been 5 years since he had been detained. But know that before that, he was already fishing in the far seas. So he was already gone for 2 years before, a total of 7 years that he had been away from his family. And 5 of them, they didn't know if he was dead or alive. I want you to think about how the personalities of Mr. Balbero and his colleagues were depicted when you saw it. They were captured as saying, okay, we had to get rats. We had to do what we did do whatever we could to stay alive. And I want you to think about how that links to what you had earlier said about how you see migrants and how you think about diasporic communities. Because I know that day I felt like I love my job. Okay, I love it. But that day, I felt like it wasn't my finest hour. It wasn't my finest hour. I felt predatory. I felt like I shouldn't be there at this very tender moment. It's the first time you see your children, your family. Ang dami kong backstory dito. You can ask me about it later, but yeah, okay, let's leave it at that. And I will never forget what one of the NGO workers told me after. Because I said, oh, this is great. They're home. This is fantastic. And he said, oh, what do you mean, Anna? And I said, oh, sir, I mean, they've been rescued. End of story, right? Now they're reunited with their family. And I'll never forget what he said. He said, you do know that this is just the beginning, right? This is the harder part. Reacquainting yourself with your family. Getting adjusted to normal life. And dealing with the trauma of having been kidnapped for 5 years. And as Elmer Barbera told me later, in those 5 years, every day he woke up, he didn't know if he was going to be dead or alive. So after a few years, after 5, I went back to this story because I could only do so much in this for this 8,000 words. And I remembered what Sir Vicencio told me. And I went back to Mr. Balbero. This was in 2020. We did an interview with him at his home, and we got to speak to his children. Okay, and we talked about the trauma that he had experienced, and apparently, you know, they equated to the equivalent of PTSD. So we don't, at least for me at the time, I didn't normally associate PTSD with the OFW experience. For sure, psychological impact, etc., mental health, but not PTSD. And here we talked about how Mr. Balbero had to deal with that. And I think what also brought this story to life for me was we got to talk to his family. His wife is an OFW. She was in Singapore, so she wasn't there. But we got to interview his children. And if you ask me what love looks like, for me, when I think about the story, this is what love looks like to me. This is his daughter Eloisa, and for 5 years, no, Mr. Valverde was kidnapped, and they didn't know if he was dead or alive. And she said that it was only me, my mother, and my sister who hoped and knew my father was alive. Their friends, their relatives would be like, you have to move on. He's probably dead. Okay, it's time to grieve and move on. And she said, no. We knew we would see him. And she said that she would always pray that someday I hope that, I'm going to turn 18, and my only wish for my 18th birthday, and we know how big 18th birthdays are for us, I hope that my dad can dance with me. That was her only wish for her 18th birthday. And Mr. Balbero was released a few months before her birthday. And she sent us this picture, which we included in the story. Okay. So this part was know how trauma affects the brain, right? I think we could have done better as a government, because the government was the one who arranged that press conference. I think we could have done better as journalists that day in understanding how traumatized these gentlemen were and how we could enter into their life and ask them questions. And also how trauma is felt across the family. Can you imagine? Not 5 years not knowing if your father's dead or alive. Next. If there are questions, please interrupt anytime. Okay. After we acknowledge, we sit with how trauma affects the brain, and we have to be cognizant of the state of trauma of our interviewee, right? We have to acknowledge the power imbalance. When we're speaking of diasporic communities, I think a lot of the things, perhaps with the exception of the expat, a lot of the words that we associated were a vulnerability of someone who lives in the margin. We have to acknowledge that when we come in as a researcher, when I come in as a journalist, with my phone, with my laptop, with my photojournalist colleague who has a fancy camera, there's a power imbalance. We have to acknowledge that. And how our position, this is not to fault anyone for the privilege we come with, but we have to acknowledge it and know where that situates us in the story, in the way we choose the words for depicting migrants and diasporic identities, and how our stories, our work, may contribute to othering. We also have to think about acknowledging that power imbalance by looking through an intersectional lens. I'm going back to the case of Mr. Balbero and his children. We talked about being kidnapped, those years of captivity, etc. Now, if we were to apply a gender lens to that, or an intersectionality lens to that, how would that also feel for Mr. Balbero, who is the head of the family, the father, and would come with a desire to provide for his children as a good provider, as a protector? How was he also feeling as, how did his class factor into the kind of job that he got, and therefore the kind of job that placed him in that field of danger? I think very few of us in this room, there's more than 100 of us, I think very few of us will think about, oh, I'm going to get this job and I may be kidnapped. Not everyone will have that experience or that danger or risk, right? So think about those things. And then think about reversing that. If you think about oppression, if you think about vulnerability, risk, pity, push yourself to look beyond that. It will require you to spend more time with the diasporic community that you are writing about, that you are researching. But spending time is a gift. And it is what will make the difference in how you see their lived experience. How you see the other words that I heard earlier today from Ms. Sheila: nuance, resilience, and not just the catchphrase of resilience that I hear in the Philippine government, the transformation. Because this is what migrant life can also look like. Okay, we did a photo essay of migrants who are in Qatar enjoying their day off. Think about, for me, and please think about the other images, these are the same images. Sorry, these are the same persons I would associate with the ones who came on the boat. Man, dark skin, right? But this is another side of that life, another side of the diaspora community that you don't always see. This is another one. So this is in Qatar. What they do on a Sunday is they rent a boat like this. They pool they split the cost of the boat essentially, and then they dance. I regret now not, it wasn't an Instagram, TikTok world yet, but I regret now not taking a video of it, but I hope you can feel the mood. And more than that, I want to ask you, do you see yourself in this? Meaning, do you see yourself as someone singing, dancing with your friends, maybe karaoke, right? Do you see yourself in this photo? Can you imagine yourself being in this situation? Can I have a show of hands? Okay, Noelle, yes, you see yourself. This could be you. You could be in this situation. Oh, come on. Is it only Noelle? Am I pressuring? Paolo, thank you. Trixia? All right. I'm going to leave it at that. But I'm happy, or I'm glad that some of you said that you can see yourself in this photo. My next question is, in those previous photos that I showed you at the start of this workshop, on the boat, in the farm, do you know, in behind those huts where you thought, okay, these are internally displaced persons, do you see yourself in that? Do you see that ever happening to you? And compare how you feel. This is the kind of photo where you see yourself. That's the other kind of photo where you may not. But these are both diasporic community. All right. So this portion was just to say that migrants are so much more than their job, okay, or their displacement status. We've seen it in other representations like movies of Sunday Beauty Queen and other news reports, right? Like this one. I love this, except I do not like the word just maids. I get that we're picking from the way that we speak in everyday life, but I love this so much. It's a story about domestic workers in Singapore who are running marathons and racing dragon boats. Yes, right? More than their job. Okay. So we said, think about what trauma does to the brain, how it affects the brain. And then we thought about also, oh my gosh, what was that point? I'm so engrossed in this. But the second point was also to think about the power imbalance and acknowledge it. And from acknowledging that power imbalance, we go to collaborative storytelling. Now, whose story is it? Is it yours? Because your name appears on the research paper. Is it mine? Because the byline is mine. Or is it theirs? Because it is their lived experience that I am trying to communicate. Whose story is it? I'd like to tell you that when it comes to trauma-informed, survivor-focused storytelling or data collection, you can look at a number of resources on the net available. Collaborative storytelling means really talking to your respondent, asking them, how do you want to be represented in this story? If they say that I don't want you to use my name, okay, sure. If the medium allows me to use a different name, like in my dissertation, I asked them to tell me, what name would you like to use for yourself? I told them to choose their name. And it's so powerful because some of them had to think about it, but some of them already had a name right from the get-go. And when I'd asked them about it, it really lent a different side to how they saw themselves, how they wanted to be seen, and how they wanted to be represented. And then also telling them what this story will be used for, how they're going to be represented, and really making them a part of the storytelling process. That doesn't always come instinctively, I know. I mean, even us as journalists, we are kind of trained not to do this, right? It's independence, editorial independence. But I'll show you some example. Okay, so this was a story I did on migrant mothers who are separated from their children. They moved to different countries to become nannies and take care of other people's children while leaving their own children behind. My assignment, my fieldwork was done in Paris. And this is the story of Miss Gemma. That's her son, Vlad. They talk on the phone on Skype. So I wrote about how every morning, mothers all over the world, they have a ritual, right? They send their kids off to school. But for Gemma, that means she has to do it from 7,000 miles away and on Viber and Skype. Everything that you do for your children, you send them off to school, you remind them to have a nice day, to do their homework, to give them a kiss goodbye. She has to do virtually. Now, Miss Gemma at the time was an undocumented migrant worker. And she told me, I asked her, how would you like me to name you? And she said, oh, it's okay, you can use my name. And I said, are you sure? She said, yeah, I think it's pretty harmless. You've told me how we're going to use the story. And I said, I don't know, Ate Gemma, because you never know how regimes change, right? She said that the French government at the time was very migrant friendly, and she didn't feel any kind of risk. And I said, I don't know, I'm not sure. Let's be more safe. Anyway, I said, let's just be safe and let's not use your name. She said, okay, fine. That was 2014. The migrant temperament here in Europe has changed so much since then. So can you imagine? It might have put her at risk. It did not, but those are the kind of things that we should think about when we talk about or when we go into collaborative storytelling. Next, this is a story of a person smuggler. Her name is Miss Lumen Panabi, Illuminada. Okay. She was arrested for human smuggling, and it was the most explosive. Denmark is not a scandalous country, they say. But she was arrested for running the largest human smuggling ring in the country. And when I talked to people who knew her or who had availed of her services, they always said si Lumen, nagpapalipad yan. They're not gonna say, oh, si Lumen, the smuggler, right? So that was the title, The Woman Who Could Make Migrants Fly. And this is Miss Panabi in the photo. She agreed to be photographed. The staff of the Danish newspaper visited her after. But this kind of shocked me, and now I appreciate it. It's more of a practice in Europe. So the editor said that before she agreed to have her photo taken, she said, I want to read the story that Anna wrote. And I said, what? Why does she get to read my story? And then I said, what if she edits it? And the editor said, no, we have to show it to her. I said, I'm okay, but why? Because that's not a practice I know and that I'm familiar with. And they said, well, first of all, because she asked. And I said, okay, sure. And secondly, and I thought this was very interesting also, the editor said, this is a person who's not used to public attention. You know, you're not a celebrity, you're not an influencer. So if you're going to come out with a story about them that will affect their life and be available on the internet for perpetuity, I think they have a right to see what you wrote. I said, okay, fine. And Miss Panabi looked at it, and it was funny because her reaction was, oh, okay, it's not so bad. Sure, okay, fine, I'll have my photo taken. But that's part of what collaborative storytelling can look like. Okay, so 3 things, right? We said, think about how trauma impacts the brain, and therefore you have to be very sensitive to the emotions, the state of mind of your respondent, your subject. That's about your subject. Now about you. Second was about you. You come with a power imbalance, and that imbalance is skewed in your favor. Think about how you need to address that. And the last is through collaborative storytelling. Those are 3, there's more, but those are 3 pillars of trauma-informed, survivor-focused storytelling that I'd like to leave you with. And lastly, it's difficult to talk about diasporic communities and write about them. Because even as I speak here, I know that in this room, all of us have been touched by the diaspora. All of us will experience the diaspora in a different way. All of us have felt a loss because of it. So also check in with yourself. You're going to ask lots of questions, right? But you'll find, at least for me and my experience, the hardest question you will ask yourself is why? Why is my life so different from the lives of these migrants who have allowed me into their life? Remember that photo on the boat? A couple of you raised your hand and you said, oh, I can see myself in that. I can see myself as someone who's having a good time with my friends. But why is it that when you go home, have a good time with your friends, you can do it again the next day or whenever and go home to a nice bed? And your family. And they have to be away from their family for long periods of time. They have to face certain risks also in the identity depending on which country they're in. That was Qatar. If you're queer, it's going to be a little difficult. Why? Why is your life so different from the lives of these migrants who look like you and sound like you? I'm speaking about the Filipinos. And that's when, lastly, your privilege becomes a duty. That privilege that we come with, that becomes our call to duty to think about how we can keep our stories, our data collection, our research as trauma-informed and survivor-focused. And hopefully we can surface those stories of, yes, loss, but resilience and also, as Shiella said earlier, transformation. The stories that you will write, the ones that you uncover, they'll make you angry. Mine still make me cry every once in a while. But don't let it ever take away your capacity to hold, and any day that you feel joy, any chance that you can feel joy, do it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow. Very, very good presentation, Miss Anna. Actually, this what you shared with us reminded me of my own research because I did my PhD was on covering the experiences of Filipino youth migrants in Rome. And actually, I used the same, one of the methods was word association. And you can just imagine the data that I mined from the words, the prompts were Filipino, Italian, European, and self. So 4 words that, yeah, so I think I was able to get like combined 4,000 words. And it was so rich. And then I got to use kind of a picture association method, but we call it the figurative technique, where we ask the participants to draw their experience of migration from the Philippines to Italy. And I was so moved when you said about collaborative storytelling because I experienced that when one of the kids cried during the interview, and it also affected me in so many ways. I interviewed 89 young migrants in Rome, and you can just imagine all those unloading. I actually cried when I finished all the interviews. It was just too much, but it also helped me. The stories that I shared through the findings were really very, very rich and very personal. And I connected that with the drawing and then the stories of the drawing. That's why it's more like a draw. Every drawing has a story, as I call it in the later parts of my research. So I really love the way you presented your topic, your talk, and it kind of took me back to my experience. I finished my PhD 5 years ago, and I did the data gathering in 2018 in Rome. And yeah, like so many, really, so many wonderful stories moving at that. And again, it also captured the words that I use, like resilience, loss, and then actually the goal is transformation, which I hope we can also help them with, when we tell their stories to the world. So we need to save some of the questions for later when Sandra will also be done with hers. And I'd like to encourage our participants to please, if you have questions, write them down maybe in the chat box. We can have that later on with the open forum after our next speaker is done. So I think Miss Anna deserve so many hearts for a very good sharing on how to better deliver the stories from the migrants, the refugees, the IDPs, even the expats. And then I can actually imagine myself on the boat. Maybe singing and dancing to Dancing Queen. that's
for
my,
sure.
that's my go-to karaoke song.
Yeah. Now I know, right? It was
Yeah.
2016 at the time. So
Yeah.
next time I do a story like that, it will be on my phone, right? Video
Yes. Yeah.
as a story on Instagram.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
this.
Anna. We'll get back to you in a while for the open forum with Sandra. Okay.
Salamat.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Wow, that was so intense, but very, very insightful, I must say. I can perfectly relate because, as I have shared, I did a similar study for my PhD in Rome, Italy, 6 years ago. Anyway, moving on. Our next speaker is Miss Sandra Ruiz Moriana, who I had the chance to meet last year when she came to Xavier University and organized and handled the Global Migration Media Academy. So Sandra is a migration and gender expert. Throughout her professional journey, Sandra has honed her social, humanitarian, and international development expertise. Her unique and commendable gender-sensitive approach is a testament to her dedication to diversity and inclusion in these fields. During her most recent role, she had coordinated the Global Migration Media Academy, an international organization for migration UN initiative. Besides that, she also has an extensive experience working in human trafficking for sexual exploitation. Sandra is a regular writer at the national Spanish newspaper called La Vanguardia, where she shares her insights and expertise on migration, gender, and social issues. Sandra holds dual master's degrees, specializing in gender equality, women's issues, creativity, innovation, and leadership, which complement more than a decade of practical experience. Currently, she is a PhD student at the Universidad Complutense de Madrid in Spain, focusing on migration, gender dynamics, and the labor market, demonstrating her commitment to continuous learning and growth. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Sandra Ruiz Moriana. Sandra?
Hello, good morning on this side, good afternoon on the Philippine side. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and a bit scary to come after Ana Santos because, it's Ana and then I'm coming next. So I'm gonna try to do my best, and there's some part and maybe the overlap, but I hope I will complement some of the points that Ana was making during her presentation. And because I know we have been sitting for an hour, I don't know if we can allow people 5 minutes just to stretch and to relax and to change the energy a little bit. And then that will give me some time to prepare the slide and to have to be ready for the presentation. How do you feel about that?
Sure.
Yeah, we can go
Okay.
for a 5-minute break, Sandra.
5 minute break.
Okay, fantastic. So just make sure to stretch and to stand up from your seat, okay? See you now.
See you. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we can be back by 5:20 p.m. So have the 5-minute break, everyone, and we'll see you in a bit.
Okay. Are we all here back from our very short break? Sandra?
Yes.
Okay, you're there. Perfect. So you may start now. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much to the Philippine Association for Communication and Media Research for the invitation and the possibility to be back in the Philippines, even though this time is just my traveling, my soul traveling and not my full self. But it's an honor to join the session. And seriously, I love the Philippines. So I just wanted to start with this statement. I'm particularly grateful to Noel for trusting me and for the opportunity to work again alongside my dearest Ana Santos, my great Ana Santos, and Dr. Chile. Then, as she said, we met last year around this time, before last year in the Philippines. Throughout my presentation, I hope I will share some useful tools and food for thoughts that will help you to think about when you are putting together your report, your story, perhaps to think about to develop your story with more accuracy, balance, and creativity, and from a gender-sensitive approach. I'm going to be talking about some stuff that Ana Santos has already been mentioning, so I'm not going to overlap too much, but instead I'm going to be complementing some of the main ideas that Ana Santos has been sharing in her previous presentation. Migration is a gender equality issue, and gender is a migration issue as well. So we need to be very mindful about it when reporting on migration. As Ana Santos said, otherwise we don't capture the full experience of the migration phenomenon. So let's keep in mind, in Spanish we say, let's wear the purple glasses. And that means it's like to have the lens, that gender equality lens, or feminist lens all the time when reporting on migration. Migration is a gender process and impacts sex, gender diverse migrant differently. So it's not just about men, it's not male, it's not about female, it's not about gender diverse migrants, it's about all of them and their experience. Just as a note, and I know here Noel is an expert on this, I'm going to be using migrant women, but means mainly I'm going to be talking about female women. And we're going to be talking about terms as well, and how we use them interchangeably, okay? But just I wanted to add that note because there is a difference between the term women and female. One is about identity, the other one is about sex, it's about a biological has a biological connotation. But just to be clear here, when you hear me talking about migrant women, what I'm talking is about female migrants, okay? Feel free to ask any question, to stop me anytime. Please, let's be as interactive as possible. Anna has been great, putting the energy up and bringing people on board. So I hope it will continue like that. And then let's move on. So connecting to Anna's intervention, I think it is important to emphasize that migration is not just something that is part of the other. Sometimes when the people talk about migration, they are looking far from them. It's like, it's me, and there is migration, and migrant people, right? Through the history, people have been migrating for better life, to flee conflict, to seek safety, to find new opportunities. And not only us as humans, the animals, and that's why I choose that photo over there, then you have the birds and they are migrating, they are doing that too. So it's a natural process of the humanity, I mean, the world. And migration is as old as humanity itself. So there's nothing new about migration. However, migration is a very complex phenomenon, and the nuances of migration are endless. So for you as a journalist, you have to be up to date professionally. You have to do your work. It's not the same, with all my respect, right? Like, this is not about comparing one to the other, but if you are reporting on sport, you go to sport and you're reporting on a match, you know the rules. You may have to learn the new names of the player, but the rules are the same, so it's very static. However, migration is evolving, is changing, is moving. So you have to be updating yourself all the time, which is super exciting. It's very empowering somehow, but at the same time, the bad news is that, like, you cannot just say, well, I know about migration, that's it, I don't have to do anything, I just need to put my work together, and there you go, my report is there. Because again, it's changing. And I don't know if my colleagues here and you guys will feel the same way, but I feel like the more I know about migration, the less I know. And it's a weird feeling, because the more I learn about migration, it's like, it's so complex and it's so diverse, and there are so different elements that intertwine in terms of social, cultural, political, and economic structure. They're all connected, and they are shaping the migration phenomenon, that it is very difficult to be on the top of everything or different aspects. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about terms. We're going to talk about pictures. We're going to talk about data, intersectionality as well, which I know Anna has been touching upon all of this elements. But something that we need to be mindful as well is that migration is a topic that it has been deeply affected by misinformation, disinformation, fake news, and has been politicized. I know Dr. Shiella is great, is an amazing person to check. If you have any question about that, go to her, because she will give you an amazing masterclass on this, because I have been present in one of her classes. So it is the reality. And the dominant narrative has strayed far away in so many cases from balance, accuracy, and the reality of migration. We tend to simplify it. We tend to capture migration as a whole group, instead of looking at individual case and more personal story. I mean, this is I know say that this is still happening 100%. We have amazing journalists like Ana Santos and other journalists we have here in Spain, for example, the case of Nicolás Castellano, and I could give you more names all across the world. Then they are specialized in migration. So they are making sure that when they are telling a story, they are coming from this global phenomenon to the individual and personal stories. So I want to start with this word, and I know Ana Santos has been talking about this a little bit, but what does a migrant look like? Let me ask you a question, and then I want you to go to the chat and then to add a thumb up if you agree with this. I want you to add a thumb up if you are first generation of migration. How many people do we have right now, Noel? Like, I just wanted to, I cannot see how many people, or Dr.
We're
Shiella.
about 87.
Okay, that's great.
87.
And so I want you to tell me if you are a first generation of migration. That means that you, for example, you were living in Cagayan de Oro and then you moved to Manila. This is internal migration. Or you were living in the rural area of Manila and then you moved to the city center in Makati, right? This is migration. Or perhaps you were from Vietnam and now you are living in the Philippines. I want you to put your hands up as well if you are a second generation of migrants. That means that one of your parents were migrants for the reason that I said before. I mean, not the reason, like the kind of the profile. It doesn't have to be that they are coming from a different country, but also those who are moving internally, right? Put your hands, your thumbs up if you are planning to study or to work abroad. If you are planning to go to Africa, Europe, America, if you are planning to do that. And put your thumbs up if you know somebody close to you, family or friend, who is a migrant themselves. Now, can you please do that now? Well, I cannot see the people. Like, I was thinking if you could add in the chat. Noel, first generation migrants from Pakistan, now residents in the Philippines. I know, for example, Ana Santos, she already mentioned before, she's living in Germany. She's from the Philippines. I am a migrant as well. I was living for 12 years in Ireland, and now I'm back to Spain, but I'm living in a different region of Spain. So I'm living in the north side of Spain, and I'm from the south, from Seville, from Andalusia, and I'm living in Catalonia. So I'm a migrant too. I'm internal migrant as well. So as you can see, first generation of migrant and second generation migrants. Okay, Anna, I didn't know that, so it's interesting as well. You see, this is how a migrant look like. It's part of who we are. It's not part of those who the people want us to believe that means a migrant. The faces of migrant is us. Like migration is impacting of life. It's part of who we are. It's part of a history. It's a human right. People have the right to move, and they have the right, all of us, to be protected when we are moving. Let's take a look at these photos over here. I select a few photos here and there, and I would like you to tell me which photos that they are here it means like they look like a migrant to you, and who doesn't. I feel like people are there. Leiko, Samira, Kathleen, Anne, Trisha, John, Ellen, Lawrence. Like we have so many people out there. Are you still alive? Yeah, Trisha. Do you want to talk? Do you want to say something? Do you want to unmute yourself and try to tell me which one do you think that they look like a migrant to you? Well, Ronaldo is a migrant. Exactly. Thank you, Anna. Who is there? Sorry, I heard the voice. Okay, well, those pictures over there, to be honest with you, I only know 4 people there that they are migrants. 4. The rest, I don't know. The 4 people that I know that they are migrant is the one on the left top right and left top person. He's an actor, and he's a famous actor from the Philippines, right? Living in America, I believe. The one at the bottom is a football player. He's from Portugal and currently living in Arabia Saudi. On the other corner, we have a American football player that is from the Philippines as well, but I think he's living in America. I'm not sure about where he's living now, but he's living abroad. And the lady in the middle, she is from the Philippines as well, and is an actor, is a famous, popular actor, singer, sorry. And I think she's living in the UK. Those people there are migrants, and we know they're migrants. But when you see media and they portray migration, they don't use this picture. They don't use this to talk about migration. But instead, they use the photo that you see over there, the man that is sitting in the inside of the train like this, the lady that is working I think inside of a boat. Especially Anna Sandra already mentioned that pictures over there at the top right, where there is a boat and there are men, mainly, well, I would say from Africa, that they don't have to be from Africa, but in Europe, that's what we believe. When we see a photo from there, automatically it's coming to our brain. Then there are men between 20 to 40 years old, coming from Africa and around in a boat like that, around 300 people in the same boat. And actually, if I open my phone now and I go to Google and I type migrants or migration, this is a type of photo, then it will come up to me, because the algorithm, I don't know exactly in the Philippines, maybe it will change a little bit. Like if you look at the picture that is at the bottom and there are the people walking, carrying stuff, maybe that could be more in Mexico. But I mean, they tend to use a type of profile when talking about migration. And it's all about, with the motion that they are sharing, they are very connected to each other, right? They are very specific. I want you to focus on the photo that is on the right side, the one with the lady wearing a scarf, a red scarf, and it has a baby at the back. Can somebody tell me something about this photo? Can you type in the chat something about this photo? What is it telling you? What is the story behind this photo? What do you think this photo is telling you? Let's pretend that she's a migrant, which I don't know, but let's pretend that he's a migrant. And you see that in a report, in an article. What is the messages? What is the information that is giving you? Hello? Okay, it looks like they are moving to another part of the country. It could be a ITP, yes. What else? Martin? Hello, Martin? Poverty, okay. What else? What is the messages that you will getting from the perspective of gender? Let's be more specific. Okay, clothes or the back comes to mind, okay. What else? Who is the person that is behind that lady? The little person, I mean. A woman who carried the child, provide for her child, migrant looking for work in order to provide for her child. Yes. This is where I wanted to go. When we look at the photos and we talk about women, migrant women, okay, Noel, I know you're gonna like Sandra, but when we talk about female migrant women, they tend to portray migrant women with the child somehow. It's like when you see the photo, it's always a migrant woman and a child. Or when we talk about family, it's always a woman and a child. And what is that doing? With all these images that we have been seeing there, they are perpetuating inequality and gender stereotypes. That is not actually showing the reality, because we're going to talk about this later on, but we see that more and more women are migrating independently. So they are not as before as a part of a family reunification or following their expose. They are independently moving abroad and they are traveling. I mean, they are migrating. However, when we are putting a picture together of women, like the lady in the middle is carrying a baby. So that means that it's all connected, one thing to the other, because then it means that, you know, gender stereotype, talking about care, talking about domestic role, and then everything else is start being kind of connected. But also, those photos is talking about classism and elitism. We talk about migration. Migration has somehow, for so many people, a negative connotation. Unfortunately, I consider myself a migrant. But when they look at, yesterday I have a call with a person, a very senior person here in Spain, and he was telling me, oh, Sandra, I don't want to call you a migrant. You are a Spanish person abroad, and you have the term here, the overseas Filipino, or we have the term expat. Why? Because the migration has that negative connotation. But what I want you to think, and I'm going to leave that with you, some food for thought, it's maybe not about the term migration. It's about the implicit meaning of classism that is connected to the word migration. Because when we talk about certain migration, it's about classism, it's about poor, it's about people that they are coming with no resources, than people that they are going to be taking our money, taking our stuff, like people that they are just with nothing, right? And this is the narrative that then certain political groups are using to go against migration. So this is all about photojournalism. I read that the human brain processes images 6,000 times faster than text, and 90% of the information transmitted to the brain is visual. So it means that every time that we are putting our article together, we need to be very mindful of the type of picture that we are selecting. Because sometimes the people see the picture and then they read the rest. It's very sad, but it's like that. At the same time, I'm not a journalist, but I have been talking and working with a lot of journalists. And I know sometimes when you are working for an agency, it's not you that is selecting all of these or deciding what to do and how to do it. But as much as you can, and because I know some of you, in a few years, you're going to be directors of the media outlets in the Philippines and all around the world, I want you to keep that in mind. The picture that you're selecting for your report, it's very relevant. Are we all okay? Any questions so far? But now we are moving to terms. And Anna has already talked about this, terms, and she already explained a few terms. And when we use the terms, we tend to often use them in a colloquial way, and we interchange the terms. Like as I say at the beginning, the term between migrant women and female migrants, sorry. If you check reports, if you check academics, they will use them interchangeably. But there is also an internal debate about this. And you as a journalist, you need to be aware of this. Because when you are putting your report together, you need to make sure that you're using the right words, because this will have an impact. It has a significant legal, political, and social meaning. And that means that then for those who are developing policies and resources, it will impact in their opinion, and it will shape their minds. So we need to be aware of the nuances of the words that we are using when we are putting a story together. We have other words here, migrant women and refugees women versus migrant women. Very, very quick. There is a debate again at academic level and UN agency, between the terms migrants and refugees. Okay, you have the IOM, which is the International Organization for Migration, which is a UN agency. Then they are saying, well, and they have a glossary that is public out there, so you can have a look. And they say, well, we believe that everyone is a migrant. So that means that the word migrant is just an umbrella that is putting together all this type of migration, right? And then you have UNHCR, there's the UN Refugee Agency, that say, no. Migrant is one thing and refugee is another thing. So when you are talking about this, let's make sure that we differentiate them, because they do have a legal implication. I leave it with you. I'm not going to tell you which one to use. I'm just telling you that there is some discrepancy. And depending on which word you use, the readers are going to select. I'm going to say, well, maybe I don't want to continue, or yes, maybe I want to continue, or maybe I'm not taking you as serious, or I'm not going to believe what you say because you're selecting one or the other, or even the impact that you're going to have this in people when they are reading. So there are other terms, for example, Anna mentioned about maid versus domestic worker as well. Maid is obsolete. People don't use that word anymore because it doesn't have, again, that idea of negative connotation. So now it's more common and it's more accepted to use the word domestic worker. So as you can see, it's changing, it's moving, it's life. And that's what I said at the beginning. You have to be at the top of the game. Like, you have to be learning and updating yourself before putting a report and putting your story together. And this is pretty much related to gender, but then you have other words out there that even people that they are working in the migration sector, they are using, like, for example, the word crisis, the word invasion, the word flood, the word immigration sword. And we need to be very careful, because this is, again, perpetuating some myth that they are connected to migration. And even though we do not try to harm or to make any harm and to try to impact negatively to migrants, but depending on the word that we are using, we are going to have an impact. Are you aware of the kind of word like that you would like to share? Feel free, because that will help other people as well to be alert when they're reading an article or something and they see that those words over there, that the impact that word can have. So feel free to use the chat to share other type of words, and you think that it will be interesting to at least to keep around the red flag when you see them. And now we are moving to data. Could I ask you to tell me what is the share of international migration globally? So how many migrants are globally? Or you can say a percentage. What is the percentage? Do you think that is like 3, 4, 7, 8, 20, 40, 80%? What is the share of the international migration globally? You can put it on the chat. And let me know if I'm speaking too fast, by the way. I have this Irish background. So and I tend to speak a bit too fast between my Andalusian roots and my Irish root as well. I tend to speak way too fast. So let me know. Could you use the chat to let me know what is the percentage? 40? Yeah, that's fine. Random number, it's fine. What about the rest? 4? Tricia, okay. What about the rest? 20, Paolo, okay. 60, Alison, fantastic. More random numbers is totally fine. 1 or 2 more people. Lawrence, Cheska, Bernadette. I see your names here. 3%. Okay. According to IOM, the international migrant globally share is 3.6%. So only 3.6%. What happened here? Data-driven journalism. You see, for those who are not working in the migration sector, it is very difficult to be aware of the data and to be aware of the terms and to be aware of all of that, right? So we rely on those who are expert academics, and especially for normal people like myself, I'm relying on newsletter, in radio, and all kind of media outlets to tell me the right information. Now we know, and now we are more aware that there is this, there's a lot of fake news and that information. So I think that people are now more awake about, to make sure that they are more alert of if there is any misinformation. But I mean, if somebody say, listen, the global international migration globally is like 60%, I will not go to my desk and check, right? Because unless I'm doing a specific word, I will trust the media or the people that they are listening, because I believe they have done their work before. But what is happening? There is so many media, and especially those sensationalist media, and the one that they actually are catching more the attention of regular people than they are using this word about invasion, SOAR, like massive. Obviously, when you hear that, I will also believe that the share is 60%. I believe that there is a massive amount of people that they are coming. What I will not imagine is that, for example, in the case of Europe, That's the belief. The belief is when the people that are coming from Africa is massive. Like it's like not 60, probably like 90%. There are migrants and they are coming from Africa. That's the belief, because we constantly see that photo that I mentioned before, because we hear in the news 1,000 people, maybe people are migrants coming from Africa. But the reality is, like, within African people, they migrate within Africa. So 80, I don't know if it's between 80 and 85% of African people, they do migrate within Africa borders, so they don't go abroad. So it's very little percentage, the one that actually are coming to Europe. But the news are not telling us that. Why? Maybe because they have some political interest, maybe because they are misinformed, maybe because they are not doing their work. I don't know. But the reality is that. So data-driven journalism, it's very, very important for your work. Can somebody tell me why it is important when you are reporting to use accurate data? You can use the chat. So why is it important to use accurate data in journalism? Somebody there? Oh, I go on. Credibility. Thank you. What else? First draft of a story. Yes. What else? Misleading readers and viewers. Fantastic. Can we say transparency as well? So we give the information to people to think critically. So we are not shaping people's mind intentionally. So we are just giving the information and say, now with this information, you think whatever you want to lead to a wrong decision. Exactly, Carol. Fantastic. Data drives behavior change. Absolutely, Alison. Fantastic. So why, when we talk about migration, if I ask you now to think about migration, will be the first picture when we talk about migrant, it's like a man, it's like a man in your head. If I say the word migration or migrant, is that a man coming to your head? What is the international female migration share in the world? Another guess. Let's play again. What is the international female migration share? 20, 2080, 1090, 3070. Come on, just a random number, whatever is not right or wrong. Like it's okay. 12. What does that mean? 12 female and the rest male. Paolo? 60 female, 40 male. Okay. Thank you, Alison. What about the rest? A few more guests? Yes? No? No idea? Some people are like, I don't have a clue. I don't have idea, Sandra. Archie, 30 male, 70 female. Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. One more? Come on. Wake up. I know we're talking about my 55, 45. I see that you have done your work before coming to this workshop. And yes, that's right. It's approximately that. You can see the international migrants by sex is 20, from 20 to 2020 is approximately the same. 50 to 49, 51, 49, 51, 48, but obviously it does depend on the region. So if you look on the right side, we have the female migrants from Southeastern Asia, and in 2020, and you go down, you will see that in the Philippines, the female is 54%, and the global share is 48%. I will recommend you to the link that is out there. This is the migration portal. And this migration portal is managed by my former colleagues, and I adore them. They are super, super good. The website is great, and they are very easy if you want to connect with them and you want to talk to them. And you can find their past and present trends, data sources, strengths, and limitation on the data, etc., etc. So it's a great resource that you have there. And if you need to talk to them, Noel has the person based in the Philippines, or even the one that they are managing the website, and they are based in, I think actually in Berlin. And I'm getting confused between Berlin and Brussels, but anyway, his name is Jorge, and he's amazing. So if you have any question or if you need to contact them, please do. But this is only very recent that we are collecting data, disaggregated data. And we know not only in migration, but globally, there is a gender data gap in so many areas. And when we talk about gender, remember that it's not only talking about about female, it's also about gender diverse migrant. So the data that we are collecting is still very limited. And if we don't have the data, we are making people invisible. And we cannot tell their stories because we don't have the information about who these people are, their profile, their specific needs and challenges. Because it's not the same if you are a male than if you are a deaf migrant, for example, or if you are a male and if you are somebody, a transgender woman that is on the move to another new country. So be mindful about that. And because of that, I want you to think about how we could develop new narratives on migration from a different perspective. So we have the photos, we have been talking about photos, we have been talking about terms, we have been talking about data. All this will bring accuracy and balance to your report or to your story. But how can we shape that storytelling from a different perspective, a more gender perspective, gender sensitive perspective? I suppose everyone is aware of the term intersectionality. At this point, like it's well known the term, so I don't think that I need to go there. But we know that it's like multiple forms of oppression that they are connected to each other and exacerbate inequality. So we have race, we have mental health, like sexual orientation, nationality, culture, name it, and it's there. But all of this, it's what a person is what a migrant look like. But we tend to focus in one particular thing. When we look at the person, it's like he or she is a migrant or is a IDP or is a refugee, or that's the first thing that is coming to our mind. But what about if we step a bit far away from that and we change the angle and we start looking at that person from a different perspective? I'll give you an example. I was working in Ireland, working with migrant women, and then this person from West Asian, she was a Muslim. She was a migrant. She was a woman. She was a Muslim and wearing the hijab, so it was visible. And she was high qualified. She was a high qualified woman. And highly educated. That's what I meant by high qualified, highly educated, and she was deaf. Wow. Wow. When I met her and I was working with her, my mind was like, boom. I love, and I'm very connected to the deaf community. I know sign language. So for me to meet a migrant woman from highly educated as well, because there is, yeah, it's not as usual as you can believe within the deaf community to find people that they are highly educated, because there is no resources. The government don't provide resources to them, but this is for another session. But I thought, and that was an amazing story out there, and very unique. I'm gonna give you another example. The other day I was putting an article together. Again, I'm not a journalist. I'm not even planning to be a journalist, but I have this space where I can share my experience and my expertise in certain areas. So I use that space to do it. And I was doing, I was putting together an article, a piece about menstruation, about women's and girls and menstruation. It's in English as well. So if you want to have a look, we can share with you as well. And when I was going through all of this and to deal with your menstruation with dignity, all of a sudden, this idea of came to my head about women's and girls, because girls, they can start their menstruation when they are 9 years old. So, you know, there's so many girls in the school where my girls are going, then already when they're 9, they're already menstruating. So imagine if you are a girl that for whatever reason you have to flee or you have to move to a new place. Let's say to flee, you don't have nothing, just maybe if you're looking your family, just bag, and that's it. Your paper, document, a few photos, and that's it. And then all of a sudden, you're either on the route or you enter a refugee center or a place where they are accepting people from refugees or displaced people or whatever. How do you think that those people are gonna handle the menstruation with dignity? There is a component there about poverty and menstruation. But when I was doing this research, I noticed that only in Mexico, there was a group of people that they have been doing some research about this, but nothing else. Why? Because when we talk about menstruation, there is still a strong taboo about this. People are ashamed to talk about menstruation. They don't want to know. But this is a reality. Women, female and girls, we are menstruating. And when you are a migrant, this is even more complicated to handle and to deal with your menstruation with dignity, because maybe you don't have products. It could be that you don't have a place to change that is safe and clean, a place where you can wash your hands and then change your product, or even because it's a taboo and you don't want to share with people. Imagine if you are in a refugee camp and all of a sudden you start menstruating. This is your first time. You don't know what is going on because nobody has explained to you what is happening. And then you are there surrounded people and you don't know, how do they do this? I don't know. I don't know. It's already tough when you are in a space with privilege to handle your menstruation with dignity. Never mind when you are in this type of circumstances. So think about all these different angles, then it will give you a different story. And with this, I will finish. I don't know who these people are. I don't even know if they are migrants. I just love their eyes and the way not their eyes, the stories that they're telling me through their eyes. I only know one person there, but no personally, but I know she's a famous tattoo artist, and is the lady there. But the rest, I don't know if there are migrants, displaced, refugees. I don't know. All what I know is behind these faces, behind this eye, behind this, there are so many stories there that we can put together with and to develop a story that is more real, that have accuracy, balance, and it's more meaningful. So with this, I will leave it. Salamat po. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. And I leave it for question. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you very much, Sandra, for another wonderful presentation and insightful at that. I think we were able to also get the sense now of the intersectionality of migration, that we cannot just really box it into one terminology. There are so many words that we can actually associate with it, and it's not fair to just refer to it as one and only, no, because there are other things that are attached to migration. So right now we will encourage our participants to ask questions. Noel, how much time do we have for this?
Hopefully we can have entertain in the next 5 to 7
5
minutes.
questions. 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. If you want to ask a question to Anna or to Sandra, you just raise your hand, or if you're too shy, you can type it on the chat box. Do we still have students? Carl? I'm calling my colleague. Carl, do we still have our students there? Or are you still there? Come on, people, ask. This is a very rare opportunity to be in direct connection with Anna and Sandra, who are experts, no, in gender, migration, and diaspora. Anyone? If wala, I can start maybe just to encourage the others to follow suit. I'd like to maybe ask first Anna, because I was touched, I was moved, no, because I told you that I did a similar study for my PhD research. So there are so many challenges, especially when we talked about trauma-informed, survivor-focused data collection. How do we prepare for this? Because personally, I was not prepared for it, for my experience. No, I thought I could handle it. Well, I did, but I actually suffered a little bit because I felt like I absorbed, all those stories of the children, the young migrants, and that I felt like hopeless or helpless, because I wanted to help them in a way, but I felt that I couldn't at that time. So then I comforted myself that maybe I could just slowly, tell their stories, even through my research. But for our young students here, how can they prepare for such kind of data gathering, which involves, handling the traumatic experiences of these migrants?
Thank you so much, Dr. Sheila, for that question. But first of all, I have to say Sandra started her presentation by saying she loves the Philippines, and I'm telling you, she absolutely does. After the first time she went to the Philippines, she was sending me photos. I love your country so much. So it's always nice to have someone appreciate our culture, especially we have shared cultural ties as well. And nice to see you here again, Sandra. So Dr. Sheila, that's a difficult question. I think, first of all, I have this exercise that we did before with another workshop called active listening, and I thought that was super important. So start off by thinking, who in your life, Sandra, Sheila, Noel, the other people that I have not yet met here, when I say, who's a good listener in your life? Who's the good listener for you? It could be your best friend. Some people said it was their plant. Some people said it was their dog or their cat, their partner, who is that good listener to you? And then think about why that person or thing is a good listener. Bring those traits when you do your data collection. And then think also about, really, I think it's so much about self-reflection about how we think of ourselves in relation to migrants, so that we, feeling sorry for our, I don't know how, this is a difficult question, so I'll walk me through it, but I think that when we feel bad for the migrant communities that we work with, that we write about, that's a point of empathy. But we also have to be always conscious about how it doesn't become a point of distinction between them and us. What am I saying? In the recent US elections, and I have migrant relatives in the US, I heard all the time they were saying, yeah, we're migrants too, but we came here on a visa. Okay, I didn't jump over the fence. So, and then, let's make this a safe space. There's some of us who will say, there's some of us who live abroad who say, I'm not an OFW, I'm an expat. So think about how you do those things and how you process it. I would really consider or suggest first that preparation and then the self-reflection after.
Yeah, that actually makes sense, because I remember now when that girl in the one I interviewed cried, I cried with her, and then I asked her if should we end the interview, reschedule, and she just said, no ma'am. She told me, no ma'am, I just want to cry because I miss my Lola, my grandmother. Because I think the question was about how do you keep in touch with family back home, and then she started crying, and I said, what am I going to do? So that actually hit me, like among all the other interviews, she really stood out because she was only 12, and I felt so bad for her because she was telling me that she was uprooted, like she didn't want to leave the Philippines, but the mother wanted her to be in Italy with her. So I felt, this involuntary migration, which I think most young migrants are going through, no? And I think that's another area of concern that we have to look into. Because actually, before I did I did focus on the youth migrants, I wanted to do first the first generation migrants. But then when I started reading and looking for literature, I found out that there are less literature that time about young migrants, especially Filipino migrants in Italy. So I felt more encouraged to pursue it, because I think that there has been so many studies already for the first gen migrants, but not so much on the young migrants. So it kind of inspired me. Actually, I did talk to the ambassador for the Vatican that time, because I shared with her the findings of my research, because I really wanted my results to inform the policies, no, of how do we handle these kids, because that time there was none. Like there's no clear policy on how do they handle, like the Italian government at least. There's no clear policy on how to manage this integration, assimilation, and I felt that the kids then were really like lost. But for me, it was like, oh my God, what can I do? So I can only do so much. No? So in the context of my research, I shared my data with the Philippine government, at least at the Holy See, and I hope that somehow they'll do something about it, because I think that's how we can contribute, right? Like our data, when we bring their stories to life, we help, facilitate all probably changes in the policy, and putting policies in place if there are no policies yet. So yeah. Yeah, that's how I see it now. No, like on looking back to that experience of feeling so helpless because I couldn't help the girl crying in front of me as a researcher that time. I just actually hugged her. I said, I'm
Because that's where
sorry.
active listening comes in.
Yes. Sandra, you want to say something?
Yeah, just I think that idea of self-reflection is super important, but also I think there is a need to talk more and more about mental health. How, when you are reporting on this very tough story, how do
Yeah.
you cope afterwards? And I think the sector itself, it has been male dominant for many years. And I remember to be conducting a workshop in Ethiopia. No, actually, it was in Pakistan. And we were talking about mental health and how do they do. And there were so many of them. I was like, oh, well, I don't do anything. I just don't need to talk. I just go home and whatever. And that's enough for me. And there was a man that stopped up and stand up. And then all of a sudden he started to cry because he has been going through so many different difficult stories that he couldn't handle. And for so many years, he has been doing that himself. Like he was not sharing how he was feeling with other people. And that was very powerful moments. And it really showed me that there is a need within journalism to talk more about mental health.
Yeah.
Ways to cope with the traumatic story. How do you do that? Self-checking.
Yeah.
And I think because they are the situation internally, it's changing. There is an opportunity to now to explore this masculinity that is within the journalism and communication sector.
Yeah, true. Because I had young boys as well as my respondents. I think 3 of them also cried a little bit, and it was like, "I'm sorry, mom, I have to cry." I said, "No, it's okay. You can cry," because they were also missing their families back home. So yeah, I remember it now vividly. I suffered as well as a researcher because that was too much to take. Like because it has become more that time. There were many young Filipinos who came to Rome. It's like an exodus, no, of young kids arriving, and most of them were placed first in. There was a Filipino school where they thought that maybe to slowly assimilate before they go to the Italian schools, and that's another problem because they were sharing of being bullied, not because they were bad, but because they were smart. The Italian kids were very insecure of them because now they were the ones excelling in the classes, so they were bullied because of them being smart. And most of their parents do not know about this. They keep it from their parents. So this is like what Sandra said. No, this weighs in on the mental health situation. It came out actually with the drawings because I asked them to draw, right? So they had very good drawings, powerful ones. No? The drawings really tell you the experiences that they were going through, and so much of it is about here. It's in the head, like suffering from homesickness, no, being uprooted. That's the word that I used. Uprooted from their home country, and being kind of left on their own because the parents had to work. They will be left in the schools and their, I don't know, their friends. So there was really a problem that time that I found out because of that research. And I had one friend who used to work with ABS-CBN, and I told her about it as well. Like maybe we can do something for for these stories to be heard, no? Because that time I really felt that the children need our help, no? These young migrants need our help, and the parents as well need help. They just don't acknowledge it. These are the very hardworking first generation migrants, Filipino migrants, and they thought, according to what I've heard, no, that the kids are going to be okay, no, without even checking if what's the condition of the mental health and everything else. So again, there are so many areas and factors that we need to really investigate within the context of migration. It's a rich ground for research, generating stories and data. And then the challenge now really is how do we capture them and package them in a way that we don't violate their rights. So I think it's Anna and Sandra's experiences are really coming in handy here, no? And in the how do we manage all these very powerful stories from the migrants. So yeah. Okay. Do we have questions from?
We have
Yeah, we
from
have.
Miss Tina,
Okay.
Alison, and Francesca. So we can entertain those last three.
Okay. Is it Allison? Wait, huh? I need to check. Noel, can you read? Sorry.
Sure.
Okay, thank
So
you.
The first one is from Miss Christina Reyes.
Okay.
Is there a handout or a reference we can use that will help us in covering these stories?
Handout. Anna, do you have like a reference that they can use?
Sure. So you can check the DART Center for Journalism, and they will have a lot of resources about trauma-informed
Hmm.
journalism, trauma-informed data collection. And then it will have, apart from that, there's a style guide, right? So it will
Yeah.
it'll help you understand the different terms. What is mental distress? What is PTSD, etc.
Mm.
And then they also have examples of how to speak to different people who experience violence. So, for example, how to talk to people who have experienced gun violence, how to talk to sexual assault victims, for example, trafficking victims. So those are very specific scenarios. You can check that out. I'll type it in the chat, and then
Okay.
you can
Great.
several resources that will apply to your own field of research. The other thing there on the DART Center is, Sandra, you were also mentioning we're talking a lot more about mental health, and for us as journalists, we call it vicarious trauma. Dr. Shiella, what you said earlier about how you talk to your respondents, your subjects, and you kind of feel what they went through, especially when you speak to an OFW.
Yeah.
Someone who looks like you, sounds like you,
Yes, exactly.
you really feel a different kind of affinity, empathy. So, and you can look through resources of vicarious trauma. There are other glossaries also for terms on migration. Sandra, I'll leave that to you. There are other toolkits for like glossaries on the terminology for migration and migrant rights as well.
Yeah, like, I mean, I was already sharing a few of them. If you go to IOM, you have the data portal, you have the glossary. There is also the project that I was working for the past 3 years. It's called the Global Migration Media Academy, where you can find different courses, and they're free and specialized, specific tailored for journalists as well. But also you can, if you go to ILO, you go to all these different UN agencies, they are now more aware of the need to support journalists to fully understand the different topics. So there is plenty of resources there. But if you want to from a specific area, just let me know, and get in contact with me, and I will share with you more information.
Great, great. Thank you. Okay, another question here is from Allison. For both speakers, do you think we will reach a point when reporting migrant and diasporic identities and realities will not be as gendered nor as minoritized as we encounter now? I understand you have provided ways in which to counter the dominant discourses, but do you have specific reflections or insights in order for us to pave the way? For both of you.
I can go
Insight.
first.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Very
Sandra.
quick.
Wow,
Yeah.
deep sigh. Yeah,
That's
I
my
felt
answer.
that. Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay.
The world is, when we are trying to move forward, and you can see in so many areas that we are moving backwards.
Yeah.
You have their Afghan women, but if you look at US now with the new election of Donald Trump, we cannot avoid talking about this.
Yes.
Because the situation of many migrants, gender, minority groups is gonna change, and not in a positive way. So we are all gonna feel the impact of that. And even if you look at Europe, Europe is not better, I have to say. We are struggling in Europe as well, because the left and the extreme right side is growing in popularity. And now with the re-election of Donald Trump, I feel like they're gonna get stronger. And the narrative is not by any means trying to encourage people to be themselves and to be unique. They want just to limit the expression and the self-expression of people. And yeah, I don't know on that side how you are doing, but I'm telling you in Europe and in America, we are going to struggle in the next few years,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty. Anna?
I'm going to borrow a line from, I think it was Kamala, but she said, now is not the time to throw up your hands. Now is the time to roll up your sleeves.
Mm.
And if you may excuse the profanity, people who know me know I'm quite profane. So please, I will only do it once today. So at the end for this session, there was one video that came up on my reel. Forgive me, I don't know who she is, but she said, now is the time to fucking wrap your hands around those people who matter and fucking
Yeah.
hold on.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I agree.
And for me, that means that we have to keep these stories together. We have to, I would dissect, reverse engineer those stories and stereotypes that they have come up with in the
Yeah.
US. You're absolutely right. Europe is despicable.
Yeah.
And they're both just very self-righteous in their human rights way. But
Mm.
you know, reverse engineer these stereotypes.
Mm. Yeah.
Comfort one.
Okay.
What you know is the truth about these diasporic communities, especially the ones that we belong to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ours. It's our space. Yeah. Okay. Chill. Relax. Very, very passionate. I actually feel your energy all the way to here. Hi, Anna. But really, thank you. I appreciate you and Sandra for, being so honest, a bit profane about all this. But yeah, it's so true. Anyway, we all feel this. No? I think it's a long way, but yeah, I don't think there's giving up here. So the fight goes on, as Kamala said, right? We may have been defeated now, but we continue to fight for things to get better, hopefully. Okay, unfortunately, we can only entertain one more question from Miss Francesca. She wants is an aspiring journalist. My question would be for Miss Anna: the pre-existing materials that we have that have migrants as subjects are formulated that way so as to maximize empathy and understanding from readers or audiences. Given that we want to reconstruct our approach for the better by being a bit more subject-centric than audience-centric, how can we ensure that we do not compromise the impact of the usual approach used by a journalist these days?
Such difficult questions, but thank
Yeah,
you.
these are very powerful questions from the participants, huh?
Yeah. Well, the industry, the media industry, it's no secret. We're going through a self-reckoning as well.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm not going to be offended if some of you say that you have news fatigue or you don't read what I've written. You don't want to even read what I've written or stuff like that because it makes you so sad. There is that is real. The news fatigue, but also the industry is reckoning with how we have lost public trust. That for me as a media practitioner is the most hurtful. Because that is the basis of the relationship I have with you. You don't know who I am. You read my byline, you read a story I've written, you don't know, but you believe me because that was always the foundation of the relationship between media, journalists, and readers. That's crumbling.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that for us, and the media industry is going through this, how can we best still communicate to our audiences? I went to a workshop the other day and they said this very powerful thing. People want the news still. They want to know what's happening in the world, but they don't want to hear it from how we are delivering it. This is Anna Santos, and here I am. There are 300 people displaced behind me in this evacuation camp. They don't want that. We have to know how to build that relationship with the audience that we are talking to, the audience we serve. And that's how we start slowly, story by story, changing hearts and minds.
Yeah. which is quite a long way, but I think you will get there. Yeah, so challenging, really. I mean, given the scenario now, so, but yeah, there's no giving up, right? So, oh my God, we don't have time. Actually, there are more questions. Unfortunately, we cannot accommodate all of them. And Noel, is there a way to just maybe copy them and email them
Yes,
to
yeah. So
Sandra
please
and
just
Anna?
reach out to me. Please just
Yes.
reach out to me, but I've also taken note of the names and the questions that
Okay,
we have
great,
for our
great, great.
speakers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we will end this open forum now, and we will move on to the next part of the program, which is the giving of the certificates. Certificates of appreciation. Okay. Unfortunately, we're gonna do this in person. That we will present the first one to Miss Ana Santos. So I'll read the citation. The Philippine Association for Communication and Media Research, Inc. awards the Certificate of Appreciation to Ana P. Santos in recognition of their valuable time and expertise as resource speaker for the masterclass titled Gendered and Minoritized, Communicating Migrant and Diasporic Identities. This live event is held online and is part of the PACMRI 2024 Masterclass Series. Given this 8th day of November 2024, signed Maria Rosel S. San Pascual, PhD, President, and Noel Sajid I. Murad, MMC, CDM, PhD candidate, the Director for Research of PACMRI. Thank you, Anna, and congratulations for a very good presentation.
Thank you.
Next one is for Sandra. So the same citation goes to Ms. Sandra Ruiz Moriana. Again, signed by Maria Rosel San Pascual and Noel Murad. Thank you very, very much. And I think the next one is for me. It's very strange. I'm gonna give it to myself. But really, I'm so happy that Noel reached out to me and asked me to be the moderator. And then when I learned that the topic is migration, this is so close to my heart because I came to love this topic. Although now it's taking a short pause because I'm doing administrative work at the university, but it's still there somewhere. I have so many ideas in my mind after this, and Anna has reached out to me even, and I'm gonna respond to her. Maybe we can do something together, and also with Sandra in the future, because this is something that I think we all want to do something for. And I hope that this is not the last time. Okay. Thank you very much, PACMRI. Thank you, Noel, Anna, and Sandra. Okay.
Thank you.
Next,
Adios.
not yet. We
I
will
know.
have the closing remarks. Noel will say
Sorry.
something. Noel, to officially close
Yes.
this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc Shi. I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Anna and Sandra for accepting our invitation as speakers. This masterclass has been packed with a lot of girl power, and we're all totally here for it. So back when I was attending the summer school of UNIOM's Global Migration Media Academy in Ireland, I learned so much about the migrant identity and experience from both Ana Santos and Sandra Ruiz Moriana. So shout out also to Maha, Bruno, Francis, my classmates from GMMA. Not only was I able to differentiate what it means to be a migrant, an asylum seeker, a refugee, an internally displaced person, an expat, but I was also able to understand the many unique and intersectional stories of these individuals. Moreover, I realized the power that media plays in shaping the perceptions and attitudes of people towards these groups, especially now with the very highly volatile political climate of the United States and even here in the Philippines. It is more important to surface our similarities as people more than our differences. So it is absolutely imperative that we see the humanity in all of us. As Anna and Sandra have shared through their own experiences, the work of a female investigative journalist or a gender and migration specialist is not an easy one, especially treading through male-dominated and patriarchal societies and countries. Therefore, we salute the courage and bravery of all the women who are making a difference in this world in the work that they do, whether as homemakers or as skilled migrant workers. If you'd like to stay updated with the projects of Anna and Sandra, please follow them on LinkedIn and their personal websites. We have also shared the links to our Zoom chat box. I'd also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge our institutional partners who are present with us today. Thank you very much, Xavier University-Ateneo de Cagayan and Angeles University Foundation for partnering up with us for today's masterclass. For those of you who still aren't members, we hope you can consider joining us. Next year, aside from our General Assembly and masterclasses, we will explore right shops. Dane, if you could move the slide a little bit. Yeah, so thank you very much to all our institutional members. Next slide, please, Dane. Yeah, there. So I'd like to invite everyone to this year's National Communication Research Conference. It will be held in De La Salle University, Manila from November 22 to 23, 2024. And we look forward to having all of you in our very special PACMRI Masterclass in the NCRC with Dr. JC Punong Bayan and Miss Mona Magno Velus, aka Mighty Magulang. So thank you all very much for sharing your Friday afternoon with us. We hope you have been empowered to do more intersectional research work on migration and the diaspora. So as Sandra says, put on your purple glasses. And as Anna says, let's try to find the transformation in these stories. Maraming salamat, and back to you, Doc Shi.
Thank you very much, Noel, and congratulations to you for this very wonderful, insightful, and thought-provoking masterclass. So we look forward to the next one. At this point, we'll do the photo op, group photo with everybody. Noel, who will facilitate?
I can do this. So let's
Can
give a hot
everyone
minute.
turn on their cameras? This is proof of
Yes.
life that we are not bots behind the names.
Yeah, so a
Okay.
hot minute for everyone to turn on their cameras. We have 3 panels. So everyone, we'd love to see your beautiful faces. Okay. So for panel 1, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Safety shot for panel 1. 1, 2. Panel 2. Everyone, 1, 2. Safety shot for panel 2. And finally, for panel 3, 1, 2. Safety shot. There you have it. Thank you all very much.
Yay! Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon and morning in Europe. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Anna.
Thank
Really
you.
great
Thank
to
you
have
so
you today.
much.
Noel, thank you. Congrats.
Thank you, Doc
Thank you,
Sheila.
everyone.
Congrats to
Thank
us.
you. Happy
So
Thank you,
weekend.
everyone.
Friday
Bye-bye.
with us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take
Bye.
care.
Yes, adios. Now I can say
Adios.
bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandra.
Anna,
Take care.
thank you
Anna,
so
take
much,
care.
Sandra.
Yeah.
Much hearts from the
Bye.
Philippines. Bye-bye. Love, love.
Bye.
Love. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.